Hi, my name is Stan.
My name is Connie.
My name is Judy.
My name is Eileen, and I'm a caregiver to my mother.
And I care for my mother, Octavia.
And I'm a caregiver for my mother.
And I'm a caregiver to my husband, Art.
I'm a caregiver for my wife, Ann, who's 72 years old.
Basically, I've done everything for providing for both of them.
I take care of my mother on the weekends. I take her grocery shopping.
Not only household chores,
I provide her medical care, coordination, driving, errands.
choosing meals, making meals, cleaning up.
I find that I take care of anything that he can't take care of.
Sometimes I find balancing time a real challenge.
The difficult part for me is taking me into consideration.
Balancing her needs with the needs of my family, the needs of my marriage, and my own needs.
Staying calm, nice, and positive.
The real challenge is, of course, the distance and the moment you get that last phone call.
What I love most about taking care of her is knowing that we're providing a secure and comfortable home for her.
It's the time we spend together.
Is the adventure of finding out new things all the time to trying to help him stay out of pain.
My name is Ed. I'm a spouse and I'm a caregiver.
My name is Colette. I'm a daughter and a caregiver.
I'm a caregiver, and I'm a daughter.
And I'm a wife and a caregiver.
I'm a daughter and a caregiver.
I'm a son, a nephew, and a caregiver.
Hi, my name is Deborah Day, and I help manage United Way Caregivers Coalition. While caring for a loved one has its special rewards, it's a very challenging job. It can be stressful, overwhelming, and sometimes lonely. Each caregiving situation is unique, but all caregivers share the need for information and support. And that's where the Caregivers Coalition comes in. We help caregivers receive the support they need to take care of their loved ones and to take care of themselves. Caregivers who lead healthy, productive lives will be better caregivers. The most important thing to remember is that as a caregiver, you're not alone. We have a wonderful presentation tonight. Emily Lutz, who's a long-time Caregiver Coalition member and has presented for us a number of times. She's the owner and founder of Liberty Paperwork Solutions, and she has her brochure up front if you'd like to get it. Emily will help you with paperwork, with medical claims, with paying bills, whatever administrative tasks are overwhelming or too time-consuming for you to do yourself. She'll come into your home, and she's terrific, and you'll fall in love with her in a minute. Emily Lutz, without further ado, is going to be our presenter tonight.
Thank you, Deb. Hi. Okay, I'm going to start you off with a story. This past July, I just finished having dinner with my family, and it was a beautiful evening, and I decided to go for a walk. So a few blocks away, I found myself passing an ATM machine, and I thought, you know, I'm a little short of cash. While I'm here, I'm going to take out some money. And when I went up to the ATM machine, I noticed that there was someone's card sticking out of the machine. So I looked around, I waited, there was no one there. So I thought, well, I don't want to leave it here. So I decided what I was going to do is I was going to take it with me and take it home. And then when the bank opened the next morning, first thing, I would drop it off there and let them contact the people. So that's what I did. I finished my walk. And that evening, as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, wow, if I couldn't find my ATM card, I would be really upset. So what I did is I went online and I put in the person's name as a search, the person's name and New Jersey. That's all I put. And 3 different people popped up. 3 people with these names in New Jersey, only one of which was in my area. So I clicked on the name and their phone number came up and I called. And a woman answered the phone and I said, hi, I was just at an ATM machine and your card was sticking out. And she said, oh my God, we were there earlier today and the machine ate our card. And there's nothing we could do, it didn't come out, so we finally had to leave. I said, well, it eventually spit it out, and I just want you to know, I have it, it's safe, and I'm going to drop it off at the bank in the morning. And then I heard a whole bunch of shuffling, and a man's voice got on the phone. And he said, who is this? So I explained the story again. I know you don't know me, but I have your card, it's safe, I'll drop it off. And he said, how did you get this number? And it was then that I realized I might have made a mistake in calling, because someone is calling them in their home claiming that they have their ATM card. It's very frightening. And the truth is, I had their address. I actually could have dropped off their card. There's a tremendous amount of information about you that's already online. I'm going to show you, I put in my name, Emily Lutz. Emily Lutz, and I live in Glen Ridge. So this is everything that popped up by putting Emily Lutz, Glen Ridge in a Google search. This shows my maiden name, places I've worked, my age, and some of my relatives. This shows where I went to college, what years I attended, and that I majored in math. I know that's more horrifying than... I loved it, math, okay. This shows my previous addresses over the course of my life, previous phone numbers that I've had. This shows a picture of my house. It shows the square footage. It tells you the property taxes that I currently pay. If you click on images, what pops up is a couple pictures of me. That's my cute boy, my son. So as you can see, there's a tremendous amount of information already on the internet about you. So I have a company called Liberty Paperwork Solutions. We're in-home administrators. We help people with all of their day-to-day paperwork. Now when your mail comes in, or you have any papers that come in, you can put them in one of three piles. There's the pile of, I don't really need this, so you're going to dispose of it. There's the pile of, I'm going to need this at a later time, so you're going to save it, you're going to file it. And there's the third pile, which we call the actionable pile. You have to actually do something with this paperwork before you put it in one of the other two piles. My company takes care of all three of those piles. I have clients who their mail actually comes directly to me. So because of that, I see firsthand the huge amounts of scams that come through the mail. And I'm told by my clients about the scams that come over the phone, over the internet, and all the other things. So I start to think of myself as the first line of defense between the scammers and my clients. So I've gone out of my way to keep up to date on the latest scams. I read everything that I can. I get certain newsletters and blogs that come in. So that's why I'm going to talk to you about that today, the latest scams. So here's a couple of articles I picked up that just came out. In USA Today, criminals are moving from street crime to the safer and more lucrative income tax identity theft. A report by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform quotes a drug dealer as saying, "Why would I take the risk to sell drugs and get busted when I could put $10,000 on a card and do it all day long from home while the cartoons are on?" In US News, identity theft is the fastest growing crime in the country with almost 10 million incidents a year. So, now you might say, okay, I get that a lot of my personal information is out there, but you didn't mention anything about your social security number or a credit card number or my bank account number. And aren't those the things you really need in order for someone to steal my money, to pretend that they're me? Well, let me show you that. So again, from my page, you can see what my maiden name was, one of my previous addresses, and that I have a relative named Brad. Now, if you go on his page, you could see that he had the same previous address. And you see that we're 2 years apart. Well, that was my age when I made this PowerPoint. So it's not hard to come to the conclusion that this is my brother. Ring, ring. Hello? Hi, is this Emily? Yes, speaking. Hi, this is Joe Smith. Your brother Brad gave me your number. Listen, I'm currently the president of the Alumni Association, and we're making a directory this year, and we're just about to send it out to be printed, and at the last minute, an advertiser backed out. Your brother Brad told me that you have a great business and you'd be able to help us out. We just need a little business card size ad. I could take your credit card over the phone. So this is ways, by getting all this peripheral information, they gain your trust, and I'm gonna go get my credit card and help out my brother. Now, I have a client who she's actually a judge. And having her peripheral information online would be very dangerous for her. She deals with people who would love nothing more than to know her home address and her telephone number. So there are online reputation management companies. We have one for her. And what that company does is it goes into all those different websites and it gets the information taken off, which you can. There's a lot of websites though, and they do that for you. The problem is also that only lasts for a few months, and then all the information comes back on. So it has to be a constant process of them removing it. This service costs her $1,000 a year, and she's doesn't mind. It's peace of mind for her. Okay, ring, ring. I have to get a little ding. Hello, is this Emily? Yes. PSE&G calling. Listen, I'm not supposed to call you, but I was just looking at your file. Do you know that your power is being shut off at midnight tonight? What? I can't lose my power at midnight tonight. Why? Well, it says that you haven't paid your bill for months. What are you talking about? I always pay my bill. I pay my bill every month. It says that they've been trying to reach out to you and you haven't responded. I knew there was a problem. That's why I thought I'd call. Listen, if you can give me a small payment right now over the phone, then we'd be able to hold it off and do research further. Ring, ring. Emily Lutz? Yes. This is the Essex County Sheriff's Department calling. I need you to stay put. There's a warrant for your arrest. We're coming by to pick you up. What? What are you talking about? You have not answered the last 3 jury duty summonses that were sent to you. And you know that's against the law. That's a criminal offense. What do you mean? I never received any jury duty summonses. Of course I would have answered them. I never got any. Ma'am, you got 3. You did not send any back. I'm telling you, you have the wrong person. This is Emily Lutz of Glen Ridge? Yes? Okay. What's your social security number? Yeah. Real scam. Netted millions from them getting old people's social security numbers. Those scammers are also very bright, and they read the news like you or I. And they know that particularly after a disaster, a terrible hurricane or a shooting or terrible accident, you're watching this on the news and your heart goes out to these people, and they know that. And they call and say they're from an organization that's collecting money for this. And it's really a shame because your heart does go out for these people and you might really want to help. But unfortunately, there's just no way to tell if whoever's calling you is legitimate. So you just can't give over the phone. Here is an email I received. Dear Wells Fargo customer, we've recently detected that a different computer user has attempted gaining access. It's necessary to reconfirm all your account information. Please click on the thing below and input all your stuff. Now, I do have an account at Wells Fargo. So on first glance, this seems actually reasonable, right? So it's the type of thing where everything that comes in that's unsolicited, I'm always on alert. I'm always on alert. And actually, I knew this one right away because I know not to re-put in any of my personal information, but also it came to my business email address, and I don't use that for my bank account. That's how I knew. Okay, IRS. So I have a client, a very sweet woman in her 90s, and I go to her every week. We sit together and we go through all her mail, make any phone calls she needs to make. We take care of everything. And she is harassed constantly by a man who calls saying he's from the IRS and that she owes money and she is in big trouble if she doesn't pay. And he doesn't stop calling, and it's terrible. And she calls me, I assure her it's a scam. I sat down with her and together we called the IRS. I said, let's call. We called the IRS. They said, we assure you, you do not owe any money. That call's not from us. But he continues to call. We tried to block the number, but he comes in on a different number. One time, and she doesn't want to change her phone number, which is another option because she's been living here her whole life. All her friends have her number. It would just be too big a change. So one day, I happen to be sitting with her, and the phone rings. My fantasy come true. So she looked at the caller ID. She said, that's him. And I dove at that phone. And he said, I'm from the IRS. I said, you listen to me. This line is being monitored. You will never be getting any money. Do not call here again. And I thought that would scare him and he would hang up. He wasn't the slightest bit frightened. He said, what do you mean? This isn't a scam. I'm from the IRS. Let me put on my supervisor. And he hands the phone to his friend next to him and says, I'm the supervisor from the IRS. This is not a scam. She owes money. It's terrible. They know they won't be caught. And they just continue to do it. It's a terrible thing. She is harassed. A relatively recent scam that's been going along is that your cell phone rings, just one ring, and then it goes dead. And who can get to their cell phone and ring, for God's sakes? You're just searching all over the place. But okay, so one ring. So what some people have been doing is they're concerned they miss a call, and they call the number back. And what's been happening is, when they call the number back, it picks up and there's some music on the line, like hold music. So they wait and wait. And it turns out what this is, it's a toll number. So they're being charged all this time, exorbitant amounts. And a lot of times they don't know that anything wrong has happened at all until they get their bill. And there's hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on charges on their bill. So knowing that scam, you know not to call back anyone. If it's important, they'll leave a message. And that's the theme of the cell phone. Now, you might have these very friendly looking people come and ring your doorbell with an emergency. Listen, we're from the town. We got to report there's a gas leak. We got to check your basement. Any of a number of repair stories, emergency stories. And what they do is they come into the house, and of course one of them distracts you while the other one goes around and tries to take personal items. So I told you, so we've talked about a lot of different kinds of scams, and you might say, okay, I'll try to remember not to answer emails on my phone, and I'll try not to, if someone calls with this sort of thing. But there's actually one answer that can help you prevent you from succumbing to any of these scams. And it's the hardest thing, it's not easy. The one thing you have to do is wait, okay? And this is really hard. I don't say this lightly, because when people call up with an emergency, every single fiber of your being is screaming to fix it as quickly as possible. Can the money, give them information, let them into the house to fix it. But what you have to do is tell them you will call them back. And they're not going to like that. They're going to say, don't do it. They're going to make additional threats. But there's nothing that can't wait a couple hours. And what you have to do is call someone, a neighbor, a trusted friend. My clients call me. You have to get in touch with someone else and just run it past them. You can call PSE&G. You can call the place where the threat's coming from. So that's the trick to preventing all of it. No matter what the emergency, you can act on it. It's hard. I know. Okay, so I know my peripheral information, I call it, is out there, but I don't want to help spread it. You hear all these stories about these stores being hacked, Target and Home Depot. If they're collecting your peripheral information, then a hacker's going to immediately have that. So I try to avoid. So when a cashier asks you for some information, can I have your zip code? Which seems innocent enough, and it might be. The truth is, they're collecting this information really for marketing purposes. I'm sure it's very innocent most of the time. We're in this time right now where we're big data. They have huge amounts of statistics on everyone so they can market properly. But I will ask, do I have to give you my zip code in order to finish the transaction? I'll ask. And most of the time they're like, nah, we just ask. It's fine. 1095, please, There was, on the computer too, I went to a store. My son wanted a basketball. So I went to the store, and there were 2 basketballs, looked the same to me. One, if you bought it, you get a $5 coupon, and one you didn't. I'm like, $5 coupon wins it for me. So I grabbed the ball, I go up to pay. They said, okay, your $5 coupon comes, you have to register online, and then you get your coupon. Okay. So I go home, and I go to register online, and to register, they need your birth date. So I try to leave that field blank, and they won't let me register. So now I can't get my coupon unless I give them my birth date. So I didn't get the coupon. But there's a solution to that as well. All right. Lie like a rug. So, and I am someone who follows the rules. That's just what I do. That's my personality. Lying does not come easily to me. But for my birthday, I lie. You thought you had to have the same birthday your whole life? No. My real birthday's in the fall. I now have a summer birthday. I shaved a few years off. I use the same false birthday for everything. So actually, if someone asks me my birthday at a store, I don't even hesitate. I shoot out my false one. Do you know I now get birthday coupons on my false birthday? So, you might get a call from this very sweet woman who says she's calling from a charity, and she was asking if you could please donate. They really could use the funds. Now, you might say, okay, listen, I've given to that charity before. I feel strongly about it. I would like to give to that charity. And even if she's a scammer and I'm mailing my check to the wrong address, what can they do? My check is made out to the American Cancer Society. What are they going to do with a check made out to the American Cancer Society? Well, this is what they're going to do. So what they do is, well, first of all, your account number is on the bottom of the check, so they do now have your bank account number. That's one thing. What they're going to do is they're going to take a piece of tape, cellophane tape, and they tape it over the signature. Then they take the entire check and they soak it in acetone, which is nail polish remover. And what that does is that removes all of the exposed ink. It dissolves it. And then they take the check out and they dry it and they iron it and they carefully peel off the piece of tape, and this is what they're left with. A check with your signature on it. Now, there is a certain kind of gel ink that cannot be dissolved with acetone. Not all gel inks, but certain gel inks. And you could find those pens any place you buy pens, actually, at office supply stores, at supermarkets, wherever you go and purchase pens. And they're very clearly labeled on the box because they brag that they're the type of ink that can't be listed with acetone. I write a lot of checks with my clients. We pay their bills, we write checks, and I always use my gel ink pen. I'm careful about that. And for all of you today, I've brought a gel pen for everybody. It's my Oprah moment. A pen for everyone. Okay, passwords, 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 passwords. So, they tell you your password is supposed to be, you're supposed to have different passwords for everything, and they're supposed to be crazy, 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 hard for even a computer program to guess. These are what they want you to use. These are gorgeous, ridiculous passwords. They use everything on your entire keyboard. They make no sense whatsoever, and no computer program is ever going to find those. But for someone like me, who has to use 1 million passwords a day, not only for myself, but for my clients when I go online and pay their bills online, this would just take hours to try to put these passwords in. So nowadays, people use something, not just a password, but something called a passphrase. A passphrase. And it's something that is still kind of complicated, but you're able to look at it and remember it and type it in more easily. So here's some examples. This is a pretty good passphrase. I love cayenne pepper. A better one is if you add some capitals in there, and the love cayenne pepper, you just use the first letter on my toast. So that's even a stronger one. And here's the best one. Substitute some of the letters for numbers. And then that's not super hard to remember, and it's a very, very strong password. Okay, so now it's game time. Game time, where we go? So here are some passphrases, and I'm going to see if you can guess them. This first one is a movie that came out in 1992 called A League of Their Own. It's a phrase from that movie. Yes, I heard it. I heard it. There's no crying in baseball. So there's no crying in baseball. I added an exclamation point and a 92, and that's my password. And now I can look at that once, I remember it, and I can go and type it in. The second one I have is a Rolling Stones song. Rolling Stones fan over here. You're lucky that I didn't have to sing. You can't always get what you want, 36 pound. That's it. Every other letter is capitalized. That's a very strong password. Okay, last one. This is from the movie Dirty Dancing, came out in 1987, Patrick Swayze. I saw it thousands of times. You got it back there? Nobody puts baby in a corner. Good group. Okay. Okay. So I cut off their heads to protect their identities. So you might have already received a new credit card in the mail. We're now moving from the magnetic strips on the back of the credit cards to chips. They're called RFID chips, radio frequency ID chips. And they're a big pain in the neck if you've already been using them. So what these cards do is, a lot of times they have you, instead of swiping, they have you stick it into the machine and wait. Or some places you could actually just touch it. You just touch it to the machine. You put it in the vicinity. And apparently what is not very hard to buy online are one of these card readers. So the bad people buy the card reader, and in this case, this gentleman put it in his briefcase, and he holds his briefcase very close to the unsuspecting woman's pocketbook, and he can get her credit card information. So what I found out, which is good news, is that what it reads from the credit cards are the number of the credit card and the expiration date, but it does not pick up the 3-digit security code that's on the back, or in the case of American Express, 4-digit code. It does not pick that up. So what's nice is it would have limited usage. unless they try to guess that 3-digit number, and I could tell you that there are 1,000 possibilities, so if they're patient. So anyway, so don't stand near anyone, keep moving. I don't know what else to tell you about that. Okay, so for those that use internet, nowadays almost every place you go has wireless internet. Restaurants and stores and airports and everywhere you go there's wireless internet. And you always hear, don't use it, don't use it. But I'm here to tell you, you could use it. Just don't do any personal banking or don't do anything that you would put in your personal information. You could look at the news and you could shop around online, but don't make any purchases. That's all. Just don't put because you assume that when you're on their wireless internet, someone can watch everything that you're doing. So that's all about that. Can you make out what that is? Oh, I love shredding. Okay, let's talk about shredding. So, even today, this day, I see bank statements that have the entire number on it, your account number on it. Credit card statements that still have the whole credit card. Some of them now have like little stars and then just the last 4 digits, but so many of them still have all your information. So what you want to do is you want to shred that, because if you just dispose of it, then they call these dumpster divers. They can go in there and retrieve these things and then get your personal information. So let's talk about different shredding options. I have one of these babies. It's smoking by the end of the day. So, and it's very easy. You just take your statements and stuff when you're done, and you just shoot it in there. Now, I have a client that gets 1 statement a month, and she doesn't nearly need to buy one of these things. So what I told her to do is just tear her statement right in the middle of her account number, so half numbers on each side, and dispose of them on different days. Unless you have a very persistent dumpster diver, that should do the trick. Did I get that? Okay, yes, if you have large amounts of shredding, sometimes when I start with a client and they just have folders and folders and piles, they have all those checks. Remember, you used to get checks back. Everyone saves those. They have 8 million checks sitting there. So if you have large amounts of shredding, you have different options. You can rent a bin. There are shredding companies that they drop a bin at your house. You fill it up. They come back and pick it up and shred it. You can go to Staples. The last price I saw was 79 cents a pound. So you go there, and a pound's a good amount. And you can go there, and they weigh it, and they charge you, and they shred it. Is that it? Shred it? Fun? Yeah. Oh, fundraisers. That's why I get rid of a lot of. Sometimes your libraries, your municipal buildings, they'll have shred days. Sometimes it's free. You can go there with all your shredding and they do it. Sometimes it's like for charitable, you pay $5, $10 and they do it for you. And you can get rid of a lot of your stuff that way. So, another option to shredding, if it's just a small amount of information that you want to block, they have these stamps now. These stamps that you could buy that you stamp on top of the information you want blocked, or you roll it. I brought a roller with me. I'm going to show it to you. So, okay, this is it. And see, you could just roll it all over the place. And it really works well. If you try it and you hold it up to the light and you really try to make it out, you cannot tell the information that's underneath it. So that's another option. This cost me $10 at Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay, so here's something I'm sure all of you have seen, an explanation of benefits. So my question is, should this be shredded? So let's think what information's on here. Your name and address, by the way, are not private information, so you don't have to worry about shredding stuff with your address on it. It does have, sometimes it has your ID number. That's correct. That's correct. It has names of your doctors, maybe. But let me point out this. See this little UPC code on the top right here? See that guy? Do you know what information that has about you? I don't know either. That's why I shred it. Okay, this is quote FBI Director James Comey. There are two kinds of big companies in the United States. There are those who've been hacked and those who don't know they've been hacked. Okay, now the truth is, no matter how vigilant you are, you shred everything, and no matter how vigilant you are, the truth is, sometimes you have no control. You have to hand your credit card to the waiter, and he takes it away to charge your bill. Sometimes you hand the credit card to the gas station attendant. There might be someone unscrupulous that just started working for the credit card company or for the bank that has access to your information. The truth is, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody, at any time. Credit cards, what I do with my credit card, it's not uncommon to end up gathering a lot of credit cards. You might get a very good offer in the mail. You want to collect miles, so you get this credit card. You want to collect points, so you get this credit card. You have a credit card for a store that you frequent. So it's not uncommon to gather a lot of credit cards. But I usually recommend to keep things simple, to really have as few credit cards as possible. So I have 2 credit cards. One I use for my day-to-day spending, and my other credit card I use for stuff that's automatically charged onto a credit card. And I just leave that one at home. And the reason for that is because if my credit card I use every day, I use at a store, and the store's information is hacked, I don't have to then go call and all those companies and tell them to change my credit card information. It's easy for me to just get a new card. So that's what I do with credit cards. So you can be scammed at any time. And then at that point, what you really want to do is catch it as quickly as possible. The quicker you catch it, the easier it is to solve it. So that's why it's important to really look at your statements. Look at the credit card statements. Look at the bank statements. That's what I do for all my clients. And the truth is, if something looks a little suspicious, it's worth a call. I can tell you that on my credit card statement, I saw a charge. It wasn't large, but it was a charge. I just did not recognize it. I had no recollection. So I called the credit card company. And nowadays, all the companies have whole departments that concentrate on this. I got someone right away. I said, I just don't recognize this charge. He said, let me get you some more information. He gave me some more information. I said, oh, that's when I was in the airport and I bought that magazine. So he said, no problem at all. Glad you called. I felt better. They don't mind. Just to check everything out, make sure nothing's been compromised. Another good way to keep your eye on everything and catch something sooner is to get your credit report. Now, if you haven't done this for a while, they're kind of interesting. They have, you'd be surprised how many credit cards you still have. It also tells you what companies have requested your credit report recently. That always surprises me too. So there's 3 major credit reporting agencies. And by law, they each have to provide 1 free credit report a year. Now you actually pay and get as many as you want if you pay, but they have to provide 1 free one a year. So some people stagger it, and they'll get 1 in January from one company, they'll get 1 in April from one company, and that sort of thing. Just to look it over again, make sure there's nothing suspicious on there. You can order them online from annualcreditreport.com. Now, would you believe there's a website called freecreditreport.com? And they do end up charging you. So that's not the one you should go to, ironically. This is the only place you should go if you're getting it online, annualcreditreport.com. You can also get it if you call this phone number. Now, I should tell you, for caregivers particularly, when you're online, they have to make sure it's you. So they ask you very, very detailed, complicated questions that I even have trouble answering about myself. I don't remember who my mortgage was with when I first got it because it's been sold to so many companies and they're very difficult to answer. So particularly if you're doing this for someone you're caring for and if they're cognitively impaired, it might be impossible to get this information. So if you call on the phone, it's a little less drastic. So you could also open up a credit freeze on for one of those credit reporting agencies. A credit freeze means you contact them and you say, I'm freezing it. I want no one else. There should be no new accounts being opened. And if anyone tries, they will block them. And this is good for a lot of people who aren't about to get a new mortgage or buy a car on credit or anything that would require that. If it's frozen and you do want to then go and get a car on credit, you actually have to call the credit reporting agency, ask them to unblock it. They charge you actually a little fee to unblock it. Ranges between $2 and $10, I think. And you have to wait a couple days for it actually to unblock. You have to go and then get your car, and then go back and call them up and refreeze it if you so choose, and that costs another $2 to $8. So it's a little bit of a, if you're about to buy a new washer dryer at Sears, and they say if you buy it off of a Sears credit card, we'll give you 20% off, and you go, let's do it, they'll be like, you can't get the new credit card, it's frozen. So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, this was a very interesting thing that my brother sent me. So at Hofstra University, what's been happening, and I think this has been happening everywhere, not just at Hofstra, something called phishing, where they send a scam via email, and the poor unsuspecting person clicks on it, and that releases a virus into the system, and is just a disaster for places that have networks. So Hofstra said, what we're going to do is we're going to send out phishing emails. We're going to make them look really good, and we're going to send them out and see if you fall for them. And if it tells you to click on something and you click on it, it'll say, uh-oh, you shouldn't have clicked on that. This wasn't a real email. So it's trying to teach faculty and students exactly what they should be opening. Sometimes you get emails that say, from someone you know, that say, oh my God, look at this cute picture. And there's an attachment you have to click on. So, really, if you want to do it the right way, you're not supposed to click on it. You're supposed to contact a friend and say, did you send that? You know, that kind of thing. It's very hard not to do, especially if it's a cute picture. Okay. So, we're at the end. We're summing up here. Do's and don'ts. So if you remember, don't pay immediately. Don't give out any of your information immediately. You have to wait. That was the clock. Don't use public Wi-Fi for personal transactions. Do use a gel pen. They're coming. Gel pen. Do use strong passwords or passphrases. Come up with a passphrase. Consider a security freeze if that would work for you. Okay, and the final thing, notifications on your credit cards. Now, a lot of credit cards and bank accounts have it. If you go online, you could set up notifications. So an example is, I have a notification on my bank account that whenever someone takes money out of the ATM, I get an email that says, just to let you know, someone just took money out of your ATM. I just like to know that. Sometimes I'm taking money out myself, and I'll hear my phone beep, and I'll go, oh, there we go. I'm being notified. So most banks and credit cards now have that. You can set up those notifications. All right, thank you very much. So the question was, thoughts about LifeLock and companies that say that they will monitor everything for you, and being nervous that you're actually giving them all of your information, and then all of your information is one place, and what if they hack, sort of thing. So that's a great question. Consumer Reports came out with an article some time ago that said that if you actively look at all your statements and really, keep track of stuff that they didn't think it was a necessary service. But since then, I have AAA. And AAA has begun offering a free service that monitors your identity. So free is a good price for me. So I got it. And I have to tell you, I love it. I love it. It gives me reports. It says it's searching the internet if it sees any of my information out there. So I think I've kind of become a fan. As for having everything in one place, yeah, that's a tricky one. You have to, some people, there's lines to be drawn, right? Like, some people won't pay their bills online because they're nervous about having anything online. And that's fine. But my theory is you have to go with the latest technology and do the best you can and hope for the best. Because the truth is, things can happen even if you don't pay your bills online. And so, yeah, I think if it's not very expensive, I actually think it's a pretty good service. So the question was, they were co-signing on a lease for an apartment, and it was required that they gave credit card information, social security number, and their driver's license. And they felt like they were just really turning over every bit of information that they had. So, there are some situations where you have to do it. You have to do it. I've had clients who call me up who say, I did what you said. I went to get a credit report, and they asked me for my social security number. I'm not giving that. So I said, well, good for you, but there are situations that you do have to give that information. And it wouldn't have hurt to ask, why do you need it? Should she have asked for some information of what they would be doing with that information? If they were making copies of it, what would be happening to the copies? Absolutely valid questions. And people ask that a lot. All right, well, thank you very much.